What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hawks Film Room podcast, hosted by yours truly, David D.Lee43. Got some upgraded equipment, so definitely let me know how the sound is coming through on y'all's end. Looking forward to trying to upgrade the production quality as we continue to put out more episodes. But uh, pretty entertaining win for the Hawks, 145 to 124, the most they scored in regulation this season. A lot of standout performances from guys. The Hawks' biggest lead was 27 points with about 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. They went on an extended run from about the end of the second quarter to about 3 minutes left in the third quarter, 31-10. Risacher had 9 straight points between the third quarter and the fourth quarter. And the Hawks had pretty strong momentum throughout the majority of the game. There was a moment where it got a little bit dicey. Kevin Porter Jr. started to cook. But yeah, so big standout performance to Zachary Risacher, 36.6 rebounds, shot 57% from the field. He's now leading his rookie class in 30-point games with three. He's just the second, or he's the most recent rookie since Anthony Edwards to have 3 30-plus point games and at least 5 threes made in those games. He had 9 free throw attempts tonight. Overall, 72 true shooting percentage, 4 offensive rebounds. A standout performance from him. We'll definitely look at some of his film. Trae Young, 19 points, 3 rebounds, 19 assists, 2 steals. Really rough shooting night after the first quarter. In the first quarter, I felt like he was going to have another vintage performance against the Bucks. He had 7 free throw attempts. Ended up going 2 of 5 from the field, but he had 11 points. Then he was admittedly like a little bit less aggressive in those in between quarters, the second and the third. He just took 3 shot attempts in the second quarter. In that third quarter, actually, and the Hawks still scored 36 points. And for the game, with him off the floor, they were pretty good as well, which is not typical of the Hawks. Dyson Daniels, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals. He's just the 14th player this season to record a 4x5 stat line. So that's at least 10 points, sorry, 4x5. So yeah, 5x4 technically, but yeah, 5 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, and either 5 steals or 5 blocks. He's just the 14th player to do so. Also shot 10 of 15 from the floor, 69.3 true shooting percentage. Didn't make a three, but was really good getting to his spots in every other spot. Onyeka with double-double, 13 points, 10 rebounds. Georges Niang, he had a shorter leash tonight, which, of course, when you play a team like Giannis, like he can't possibly do anything against those guys. So you saw a little bit more Mo Gueye and Don Barlow. But in the limited minutes he had, he really sparked the Hawks in the second quarter. Ended up putting all 17 points of his night in that quarter. Ended up going 6 of 7 from the floor and hit 4 of 4 from 3. So definitely kept the Hawks cooking through that first quarter from the Bucks because they were absolutely frying us. But those and Mo Gueye as well had some pretty standout defensive things that we'll look at on the film. Terrence Mann, 14 minutes, 9 points. Karis LeVert's 3 ball wasn't falling, but he still had some moments as well. Had a nice block on Giannis. To my point about the sort of runs throughout these games, in the first quarter, Kyle Kuzma, who has not been good for the Bucks this season, in his tenure as a Buck, he is averaging just 14 points, but he's about 47 true shooting percentage as a Buck, which is obviously like not good at all. But against the Hawks, he's kind of found his groove against us for whatever particular reason. Some of it is that the lack of size without Jalen, but also just I think some outlier shooting luck. Honestly, with some of the shots that he was hitting. He started off 5 of 5 with 11 points in the first quarter, and then did not make a shot for extended stretch through the next 3 quarters. Next 2 quarters, KPJ also finished with 28, had 18 in the fourth quarter. That made it a little bit dicey. That Bucks first quarter, they ended up putting up 85% from the field, 17 of 20. It's just the second time this season a team shot above 85% in a quarter, and it's the second time the Hawks allowed an opponent to drop an 80-plus field goal percentage quarter this season. But the Hawks were only down 7 after doing that. And some of the defensive stuff definitely ticked up. They were a little bit more crisp with their rotations. It's just a little bit tough to contain Giannis. Of course, he is a physical marvel, and the Hawks don't have a ton of size with Jalen out, as I talked about earlier. In general, the Bucks got to the free throw line a pretty large clip, 43 free throw attempts, nearly more than half of their field goal attempts, because they ended up with just 82 field goal attempts. But yeah, so the Hawks, for instance, or just sort of explain how they were able to weather that quarter. A lot of it was just a possession battle, so they ended up with 12 more shots than the Bucks. They ended up forcing the Bucks into 14 turnovers. They had just 8 turnovers. They finished with 36 assists. The Bucks had 21. So it's this common theme of movement, getting out in transition. The Hawks had their best offensive performance tonight, and that's on a points per possession basis, not just raw points per game. 99th percentile offensive performance for the Hawks. And they also shot 87% at the rim and 61% on quarter three. So you're always going to have a good offensive performance when you end up doing that. And it was also really impressive was that they were able to push the tempo a lot in transition. So they finished with 20% of their plays coming in transition. They held Milwaukee to just 7.8%, which is in the fourth percentile. And they did a really good job pushing the pace off of rebounds and off of makes. So those are definitely all things we'll look at, including some of the things they did defensively against Giannis, and then some of the things they did with movement in the half court. I think because we've seen this team so many times, like this is the fifth time we've played them this season, there's almost like a level of familiarity. But what was really interesting from Quinn Snyder's perspective, at least, is that he went to some lineups that he actually had not played at all this season, which was pretty cool to see. So he threw Niang out there at the 3, and then at some point Niang was playing at the 2, and these were lineups again. Like I think it was Dyson, Niang, Mogier, Don Barlow, and then Zachary Risacher. And that was as much length as they could put up the floor at the time. And because Niang was hitting his shots, they were able to make that work. So that was really cool to see. Quinn lean into something he hadn't necessarily done before at that point in the season. So the first thing we're going to look at is the Hawks really outrunning the Bucks, right? Now, a hawk can run faster than a deer can fly, or a hawk can fly faster than a deer can run. But this is an older Bucks team. We've talked about this when we had Bucks breakdown on Stev. Brook Lopez in particular is someone that the Hawks will definitely want to try and take advantage of, right? So even on this play, he's going to get back, but Trae just throws the perfect lead pass, right? So Brook has his head turned, and he doesn't realize the ball is coming until Mo Gay puts his hands out, and then Mo's just faster to the basket. And Brook can't do anything but sort of raise his hands. And this was at the beginning of the third quarter. So the Hawks were setting the tempo the entirety of the game, but particularly in that third quarter, which is when they were able to build that margin out. It makes it a lot easier when you can run out and score so much quicker than your opponents can. So here's Terrence Mann pushing the pace. Kyle Kuzma is an egregiously bad defender. So this was after, I believe, a Giannis shot. So he's the last one back. Terrence Mann knows that there's no rim protection on the floor. Kyle Kuzma just steps up like Terrence Mann is going to run him over. And then Karis LeVert is able to sneak behind him and finish that through Andre Jackson Jr.'s contest. Then you get to see this play here. Dyson's going to pick off this pass, or pick off this fumble dribble from Giannis that Mo Gay was able to knock away. And then he's going to push the pace. Again, you have some of the vertical spacing from Trae here, forcing Taurean Prince to not be able to dig on this drive. And then Kyle Kuzma is just sort of ineffective here in the middle of the lane. And Dyson was able to get to a spot and float it over him. I mean, they're just running, man. Here, and this is what I love too. This is off of a make. You're going to see Niang's going to set a bone crusher on Ryan Rollins. And now Brook Lopez has to try and contain Dyson in space. Nice hesitation dribble, and he's going to just flip that up and over Brook. Again, this was actually the second highest percentage the Bucks have allowed a team to shoot at the rim. Boston actually made all of their shots at the rim in one game, but the 30 of the 31 shots that the Hawks took at the rim tonight, they made 27 of them, 87%, which is a great conversion rate. Now, this ends up being a block for Taurean Prince. I thought it was a goal to end in real time. Trae he allows Dyson to run the break. Dyson just follows it up with a quick pit back. I wish I could see like the average offensive possession length, because it felt like in general the Hawks were getting out and running, but they were also able to sort of make Milwaukee work a lot more than they were. This was the last steal of the game for Dyson. I just love the way he punched his home. Like that's you sometimes you can forget, but he can really jump. This one's also off a make. So Niang is just going to very smartly here, knowing again that Brook is not down the floor yet. He's going to go ahead and seal really quickly. And he's got Pat Connaughton under the basket, puts that body on him, just buries him, and one. Then we've got, this one's off a jump ball. Again, every scenario the Hawks were pushing the pace. Dyson is able to make Giannis flip his hips and turn his back to the defense. He tries to get in front of him, and then he draws Giannis out. Again, Brook is at the top of the key because he was either, I think he was the low man on the jump ball, so he was the furthest one down the court. Brook is trying to point, but Mo Gay just is able to streak to the basket again because Dyson was able to create that cross match. This is Giannis's man right here. Torian Prince is oblivious. You got Kyle Kuzma again being pulled out of the paint by Risacher, and it's just a quick backdoor pass from Dyson Daniels. So very smart basketball from the Hawks tonight. Again, here they are pushing the pace. Dyson gets to Trae. Notice how you've got Brook Lopez all the way over here. Moget is going to run through, which is going to take Giannis away from Risacher, and this is a true no look. He did see Risacher here, but he's going to look away, fire that pass through that window with Ryan Rollins, who could not get his hand up in time, and then Risacher catches it. And the interesting thing here as well, Risacher is going to be moving to catch this ball away from the ball, which creates more space from Connaughton. If he would have stood right here, obviously it would have been a shorter closeout. So nice movement shooting. And we'll look a little bit more like some of the movement looked like in the half court as well. Here, Risacher somehow is always the first man down the court, right? Like he's going to take off because I think partly because he thinks that Dyson is just going to be able to get his hand on any loose ball, but also just because he just has a great feel for knowing when to get out the gates. So here, Don Barlow creates a deflection. Dyson's the first one to the ball, and Risacher isn't even looking. He's taking off, and he's going to run up the court. He's going to adjust his path here. If he would have just kept running this way, he would have cut off Dyson's driving lane. And so by veering off, he makes this pass a little bit easier for himself, for Dyson. And then he finishes through the contact with Kyle Kuzma. Then we got even more examples, right? Here's another example of Risacher getting out and running early and being the first one down the court. So especially when Trae has the ball, I think Risacher just knows that he's going to be open. Kuzma, again, just getting exploited, man. He's not smart with the way he places himself spatially. So as Trae gets up the floor, notice that Risacher is able to loop behind Kyle. So Kuzma was like the furthest man back, right? Like you don't even see him or Risacher at this point. Here's Kuzma, here's Risacher. But the way that Risacher runs, he's sort of out of Kuzma's vision right here, and he's not even aware that he's behind him. And it's a reverse alley-oop from Risacher. And I just loved how he was smiling, man. Like he was having fun in tonight's game. Again, career high 36 points. I really wanted him to get 40, but hopefully we'll get him at least some sort of outburst like that with the way he's hooping in March. Now we're going to get to see Risacher relocate here in transition. So this is off a miss. Onyeka snags the rebound. Trae's going to push the ball up the floor. He's got two guys running with him. He's got a rim runner, and then he's got a shooting threat. So the rim runner is going to be occupying this defender. Brook Lopez, again, who is the best rim protector on the floor with Giannis up the floor. He's occupied with Risacher. But what Risacher is going to do is all of a sudden slam on the brakes, opens up this window for him. There's no way for Brook to be able to recover in time. Quick trigger, knocks it down. Dangerous basketball, and why they were able to blow that lead up so quickly is because they were able to run. It was funny too because I was listening to the Bucks broadcast and they were like, this might be a race. Typically they say it's a race to 100, but they might actually be like a race to 140. And then the Bucks just weren't able to score anymore. So we'll look at some of the things they did defensively after we watch this last transition possession. It's just quick basketball, right? Like here off the three-pointer, Trae's able to catch Kevin Porter Jr. out of position, blow past him, swipe through. And knowing, again, that Giannis is at the top of the floor. So anytime Giannis is not in the paint or Brook Lopez was not in the paint, they were very intentional about trying to attack because there's just no one else who can offer any sort of rim protection. Now, let's look at what they did against Giannis. Now, there's only so much you can do against Giannis, man. The one thing they could not do is play Don Barlow against him. And so one thing that Quinn was really good at, I thought, in tonight's game was as soon as Giannis would check out, Don would come in. Now, there were some times where he just wasn't able to time it up. Like, I think this was the one, or there were maybe like 2 or 3 possessions before he decided to, like, just not have Dom on the floor when Giannis is on the floor. Onyeka was at the floor. He was at the table at this point, too. It's just a lot to ask him. He doesn't have the frame or the size. Here, he kind of gets tripped by Karras, too, which makes it tough. You can't be off balance. And Karras just kind of, like, kicks him in his Achilles. I think this ended up being an one. Every time Giannis said A, he was getting a free throw. So yes, but here's some of the things that they did do. Let's start with my favorite defensive play from the game, honestly. So this clip starts a little bit later into the shot clock, but Dyson was matched up against Torian Prince here. And Giannis posted very early from this, I think it was entry pass from Brook. Dyson was already here to double. Very, very aggressive double. Now, at this point, you've got Risacher splitting the difference between Ryan Rollins and Kyle Kuzma, and then you've got Trae splitting the difference between Kuzma and Torian Prince. So when this kickout comes to Ryan Rollins, Risacher is going to make the closeout, the immediate closeout to Rollins, and then Dyson's going to bust his ass to get out of Torian Prince. Now, watch what Trae does here. He's going to make an aggressive closeout, which forces Kuzma to hesitate, right? And as he's hesitating, that gives Dyson ample time to get back and pick off this really lazy bounce pass, right? There's no chance this pass is ever going to get through. He nearly traveled, to be honest. But Dyson's able to step in, take this. Then Trae pushes up the floor, draws in the defense, and then Dyson's right here, spins. And then this ended up being a Mogier top of the corner three that he ended up knocking down. So great defensive connectivity from the Hawks. Trae with this aggressive closeout is what allows Dyson to recover back in time. And of course, you just can't make that pass around him. So you have to try and show as much help as you can for Giannis. He's just that good. I like that Mo was really aggressive, and he was pretty smart when he would time it, trying to show help. Of course, like what the Bucks will do this pretty often. Use Brook's ability to shoot threes to sort of pull away the other rim protector. This is, again, good timing by him after Giannis spun, but it's just too late. Ended up being a goaltending. But here's another great example. So this possession, unfortunately, I don't have a clip for it, but basically they were switching, cross-switching, scramming guys out of position. I believe Giannis tried to walk down Karras, and then they were able to bring in Onyeka, and then it ended up being a deflection after Risacher was fronting Giannis, and then he was able to front him, knock the ball out of bounds, right? So there's just 1.6 seconds on the shot clock. Here's that same concept from the Bucks. They want to try and keep Brook as above the three as much as possible to keep Mo Gay from helping against Giannis. But Mo knows how much time's on the shot clock, right? So as soon as Giannis catches, look what Mo's going to do. He's going to come. He's going to provide resistance here at the rim, and it ends up being a miss. And again, like that's all you can do against Giannis is try and show as much pressure as you can. This is a really good play. The broadcast that I was watching was a little skeptical that this was called a charge. You can tell that Mo Gay here is he's sizing up Giannis, right? Like I almost initially when I was watching this play, I was like, man, I really wish he would just jump this pass because the pass was going to be floating here. But what he's going to do here instead is going to meet Giannis right here, putting your body on the line against Giannis. It's a lot to ask, but Mo did it really well here. Took it in the chest. You can technically be moving as long as you're set, right? So like sliding your feet is different from sliding your body, if that makes sense, or sliding back or sliding forward. And so Mo here is sliding his foot in laterally, so he was able to beat him to the spot. Ends up this call got challenged. I think I forget this ref's name. I forgot CJ Anderson, I believe. He ends up calling the charge. Gets challenged by Doc Rivers, who's very emotive on the sideline, and end up standing. Now the other thing. So the Hawks, again without the size. Here you've got Don Barlow on the floor. Pat Connaughton and some other Hawks guards, some other Bucks guards were able to find Giannis for lobs, right? So here they were able to find Don Barlow they were able to lob it over Don Barlow for this lob to Giannis, right? Now here you're going to see another example with a little bit more size on the floor and Dyson on the floor when Pat tried to do that same thing. First thing I want you to notice is where Dyson is standing. This is poor spacing from the Bucks. You can see how many Hawks are in the paint. They're not respecting the Bucks shooters, but they're also trusting that they can get out to these closeouts. Dyson in particular, because Ryan Rollins decides to sink in here into the dunker spot for some reason, it allows him to be here and be active for this play. And then you get both him and Onyeka jumping here. Probably because they don't believe that Pat Connaughton can really do anything else here but pass. And so you see both him and Onyeka break it up, and it ends up being a transition possession for the Hawks. They also were switching, or at least conceding these switches when it was Muhammad, Gay, or Onyeka Okongwu. Here, honestly, Giannis gets away with the travel, so you're going to see him gather here. That's one. And then as that left foot sits down, that's two. He's going to shuffle that third one really quick. And then this is just a great pass from Ryan Rollins to get Torian Prince open. And again, that's kind of like why they were drilling shots at the beginning of the game. I think here's a good play from Dyson. So As Giannis flowed into that handoff, he's going to get it on the short roll from Taurean Prince, spin off. Dyson is active. I'm sure he got a hand on the ball here, which slows down Giannis, and then he's able to catch him at the top. And Hawks are off and running, and this was that possession we saw earlier. Or this is a possession that ends up being that putback dunk from Dyson after Trae was got his shot blocked by Taurean Prince. Okay, one more thing, two more topics, and then so we've got the Bucks announcers were talking a lot about how the perception of the Hawks offense is it's very Trae centric, etc. But basically, there's just so much movement that you don't always see from other teams, and that you haven't really seen until Quinn Snyder came in, until Trae Young was able to get guys around him who knew how to move. Right. Again, we talked a little bit with the transition film about how remedial Kuzma is on the defensive end, right? And the Hawks were able to take advantage of that all night. So here, the Hawks are moving quickly up the floor. Karis LeVert is acting like he's going to come, maybe do a ghost screen for Terrence Mann. What he's actually just going to do is just dive to the paint as we have this pick and roll action that's engaging Brook, who's standing above the key. Pat Connaughton tells Kuzma to pick up Karis LeVert because he's assuming Karis LeVert is going to cut to the paint. Kuzma is either deaf or not listening, and he's just wide open. And that's a really easy pass for Trae to make. And you see Kuzma looking confused, right? So that's one of many examples where where the Hawks are able to take advantage of his lack of defensive awareness. Here, Risacher is just going to face cut him. So Trae's bringing the ball up the floor. He's going to drive. Kuzma is watching but not doing anything, not helping. And he just concedes a face cut, which is a cardinal sin in basketball. You're not supposed to ever let this happen. Risacher just cuts right in front of him and is able to get to the rim. Smart basketball from Risacher, great rim pressure from Trae, and just awful off-ball defense from Kuzma. Again, we're going to look at one more. I believe it was this one. Yeah, so here's another example where he just sort of allows Risacher to get past him. So Mohamed Gay was grinding on the glass here. Dyson gets the first offensive rebound. Just a little bit of hesitancy from Risacher. He misses. Gay gets the rebound, and then Risacher tough finish over Giannis. Then we got on this possession, the Bucks are going to put 2 on the ball. Now, when you put 2 on the ball here against Trae, it's always going to put you in a 4-on-3 situation, okay? And Risacher is going to smartly creep up here after he backpedaled to the corner at first, but once he sees that Onyeka's going to catch it in space and he sees that Kuzma is going to step up, he's going to flash to the rim and he's going to finish over the top. So again, just he's such a smart guy. He's 19 years old, still figuring out, like how he's gonna grow into his own body. Like you still see these very goofy plays from him from time to time, but he's just so intuitively great at understanding where to be and how to remain impactful. So what I really like about this play is his aggression. So he's like, give me the ball. Karis catches it. He's like, oh, I'm ready. And then Dyson's gonna stampede here off the catch. And as he stampedes, he does this with full intention of getting it to Risacher, right? So Dyson has already understood by looking at where Risacher is lying on the floor. He knows that this pass is going to go to him. He just needs to draw on Kuzma. And Kuzma inevitably wants to try and cover up because he sees that Connaughton leaves via Krejci, and then great movement from Risacher, catches, knocks it down. The kid is so good, man. He's just so good. The other thing I want to just focus on, the Hawks' ability to box out Brook Lopez was really big. Again, I've been talking about the lack of size. You're going to see how many Hawks are in the paint when the shot goes up from Kuzma. Mohamed Gay ties him up. But again, he's just such a mountain of a man. You need that additional help. Vit Krejci comes over. They would tip it away from him. Dyson secures a rebound. You got to be able to gain rebound against bigger teams. So here comes the screen at the top of the floor. Gary Trent's going to shoot this step back 3. Vit wraps up Brook. And then you've got Mo Gay to try and help and tip it away from him. Like, again, it takes 3 guys when you have someone this big on the floor and you don't have the size. So Giannis is going to drive. He's going to shoot the Dirk fadeaway. So Mohamed Gay is going to engage with Brook here. Dyson's there for support. And then Onyeka comes to tip it over the top. This ends up being a jump ball. Sometimes you're going to have to make a decision on how you're going to operate. If you're going to hunt shots in transition, or if you're going to protect the glass on the defensive rebounds, right? So even though Brook is going to go up the floor after this shot, Mohamed Gay is going to go straight to the glass because he understands that the Hawks need help on the rebounding. He's one of the tallest players on the floor, so he's able to snag that rebound, and it allows Onyeka to not have to try and seek out the rebound, but instead find a body, and so that's really important. So he's not preoccupied with just trying to get the rebound. Shot goes up. Dyson's going to be able to out jump Giannis here, and he's going to tip it away from him. Giannis falls to the floor. Hawks are off and running. Well, actually, at that point, I forgot. Onyeka threw it away and ended up giving up 2 points. And then one more example of Dyson's sort of. I remember when I was watching his Pelicans film after we traded for him, like these tapping out rebounds is something I thought he was good at. And it's definitely happened multiple times for the Hawks as well. So shot comes, and then it ends up being Karras instead, who's going to tap the ball away from Brook straight into Trae, and the Hawks are off the floor and running. So yeah, that's just a couple of the things that I noticed from when I was watching the game. Some interesting little threads in general for the Hawks going forward. They're now 12-10 against the top 6 teams in the East. Okay, and that's honestly just super impressive considering the attrition they've been through. 2-1 versus Cleveland, 2-1 versus Boston, 2-2 versus New York, 2-1 versus Indiana, 1-3 versus Detroit, which is interesting, but also probably indicative of again like our lack of size and athleticism, and then 3-2 versus Milwaukee. They have one game against the Knicks, according to Mike Conti, so it would be really nice to finish with 13-10 again, considering the circumstances. This team, I think, at least in my opinion, has pretty much proven that they're going to be a team that should be poised to take a leap next season, assuming that we get full health and you're adding 2 rookies to the rotation, or you may see some moves outside the offseason, but I think they've got a really good foundation to be a good team, decidedly a good team going into next season. Now, the Bucks have now lost 4 in a row. Their next 8 games, they play the Suns, who may have just lost KD for the season. He had an ankle injury tonight. Then they play the Sixers. They play the Heat, the Pelicans, Timberwolves, Pelicans again, Pistons, and Pistons. Now, if they lose 5 out of their last 8, or if they finish 2-6, because the Hawks have a tiebreaker on them and we're 4 games out the 6th seed, if they finish 2-6 or they finish 3-5 and the Hawks are able to finish 6-2 or 7-1, there's a scenario where they could catch them. Now the Hawks' upcoming games, they've got the Trailblazers Tuesday, which is not going to be an easy game by any means with the way that team has been grinding guys out. They got the Mavs, they've got the Knicks, the Jazz, the Magic, Nets, Sixers, and Magic. So this team has not particularly taken care of the games they need to win. Okay, we dropped a couple games in March that we definitely would have liked to have gotten back, including the most recent game against the Heat, March 27th, March 16th against the Nets, and then they also dropped another game recently that they shouldn't have. They would have had a little bit more wiggle room if they hadn't lost those games, but you definitely have to pick up the ones against the Trailblazers, the Blazers, the Mavs, the Jazz, the Nets, and the Sixers. That would give them 5. And then could you get one? If not, could you get the Knicks? It just said that I think Brunson said that he's good to go for basketball activities, so that definitely changes the calculus. Ideally, I think they're 1-1 with the Magic right now in the season series, or maybe I want to say that. Yeah, I believe they're 1-1. So these are going to be huge games because that team could possibly be the 7th seed and the Hawks could be the 8th seed. Or that team, we could be the 7th seed, they could be the 8th seed. So we need to be able to make sure that if we're not able to catch the Bucks, that you at least have half court or home court in the play-in. But yeah, the Hawks are 1 win away from going over their projected win total from most sports books. So that's great because I think a lot of people were not expecting this team to be anywhere near the quality they have been. Every single game you're seeing growth from Risacher. Every single game you're seeing new offensive things from Dyson. He was so aggressive tonight, had beautiful layups. Even when the shot isn't falling from 3, he's able to make himself more than impactful. And we're not even talking about the defensive load he's carrying. Just purely what he's doing offensively, he has been incredible. Like he's literally been exactly what we needed from DeJounte Murray. And I think the irony of that and just the poetic nature of trading away someone who honestly could have sunk the whole franchise for someone who has promised and really just displayed throughout the entire season that he is the perfect backcourt member for Trae has been phenomenal. Trae Young, again, tonight, generated 44 points off his assists. So that means he generates 63 points in general. He's one of just two players this season generating 50 points or more per game. Nikola Jokic and Trae Young. And that's it. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. I'll catch you on the next one when we play the Blazers. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Please like, subscribe. Let me know how you enjoyed the new audio quality. Soon I'll be investing, doing some more branding for the podcast. We'll figure out an intro and outro, uh, different types of camera, lighting, etc. But yeah, hope you all enjoy the audio. And yeah, see you in the next one.